as things really swing all over town.
I'm here at the Scotiabank Football Experience, the 100th Grey Cup, with a gentleman who is from the Calgary Stampeders' 1971 Grey Cup victory over the Toronto Argonauts. TSN has billed the Toronto Argonauts at that time as the greatest team that never won the Grey Cup. Well, this gentleman, he caught the first football touchdown of that game, Herb Harrison. Herb, the first question I have to ask you, how did it feel going through your mind when you're catching that ball and scoring the first touchdown, 1971 Grey Cup, 41 years ago?
Well, I didn't, at the time, I didn't really think that catching the first touchdown was important until the end of the game when I looked at the score and I thought, wow, that was very instrumental in making the score what it was, because it was only 14-11. And at the time I didn't think about it. I thought, you know what? That's what they paid me to do, catch touchdowns or catch passes. So I didn't think of it like a lot of people says it's an honor to be thought of catching the first touchdown, but with me it wasn't. It was just that this was another way to help us win the game, and it wasn't until after that touchdown really sank into me.
And you also had the nickname of Ham Hands. How did you get that nickname?
Well, make a long story short, I came from a little town out of Pennsylvania called Duquesne. And there was a bridge separating Duquesne from McKeesport. And our high school games used to be, well, what it was the sports announcers was out of McKeesport. And one of the announcers was called Sam Vindewick. But the other one was a coach at Montreal at one time. And when they saw me playing the game, I think I caught about 11 passes, and they said, wow, he's got basket hands. And that's what they said at first. And then the next game, I had a great game, and they said, no, they're more like hams. Hams is satisfied. So ham hands went from high school to college to the pros.
And you played for 9 years in the CFL. What were some of the non-profit organizations that you're involved with?
Oh, well, my heart is Special Olympics. I've been involved with Special Olympics for so long, I couldn't even tell you how long. Over 30 years. I got involved with Lanny McDonald, who was the hockey player. And he had first asked me would I come to a charity golf tournament, and it was to do with Special Olympics. Now, when I was involved with Special Olympics and I got to see the kids that I was dealing with, I just put them in my heart and I said, I will always support this tournament every year. Now, there was other tournaments, like the ones with the kids that Make-A-Wish Foundation. I got strongly involved with that. Muscular dystrophy I got involved in. And then I got Kids Help Phone I got involved in. And these little projects, mainly because of kids, I just kind of dedicated myself to. And I just let the organizers know that no matter what happens or what they need, they can call on me. And so I've kind of put myself in that position where, and they will call on me, Herm, we need your help for this, we need your help for that. I said, no problem. And they said, well, you must get tired of us calling you. I said, no. I've always loved kids, and I've always felt like you got to give something back, For all these years, and Calgarians have been very, very grateful to me. And I think it's the least I could do is to give up my time for these kids. And that's where I dedicated myself.
And taking a look at the CFL as we've gone through rough patches financially with the league, do you feel that the corner's now been turned and we can look at many years of growth and prosperity?
Well, I think one of the things is if we get Ottawa in, I don't know, they're talking about 2014 or 15. If we can get Ottawa back in and then go into the Maritimes, I would like to see Halifax with a team to balance it out with the 10. I really think that this league is it's a spectator sport, and I don't think there's anybody that goes to a Canadian game and goes away board, because I just think it's just a kind of game, because it's such a action game. Like in Canada, everyone that's behind the line of scrimmage can go in motion other than the line. So it gives you a lot of activity. You go to the States, only one person can go in motion. So therefore, from a spectator's point, it looks like a whole lot of action is going on. And I think this is what is going to save our years. There's a couple things I would like to see them change, but right now I think we're doing it the best way. It's a Canadian game. It's our game. And I hope that if we're going to make changes, they're not drastic, and you got to leave the States out of it, because I just really feel that let our games be our game, and let the States game be their game, and don't even compare ourselves with them. Our 3 downs, our long field, the width, I think this is what makes us what we are. And I think it'll be great if we could just keep those things in mind.
And, one question I'd like to ask people, who influenced you the most in your life, and what kind of message did they leave impression on your life as you go living it right now?
Well, first of all, it was my high school coach. He believed in me. And there was incidents that happened when I was a senior that he kind of stuck behind me. I'll just give you one instance. In the States, because of the racial situation, people were selected for positions because of power. And he came to me and he said, they're going to select you to play in this all-star game. But they were looking at another kid. And he says, you deserve the right to play in this game. But because of this political thing, and you're black, they're going to put this other kid in it. But he said, if they do, I'll resign. And he expressed this so strongly with the committee that they gave me my rights to be there. Now, he was one of the most influential, and Herm, and follow your career, go on to college. Now, when I get into college, the coach in college was almost cut out of the same chip as my high school coach. And he just took the lead, and the things that he said and asked me to do, he was always there for me. And he never worried about me, because I knew I was committed to him. I was committed to the game, but I was more committed to getting an education, because I wanted to take that education and take it into a youth program. And so no one had to, prod me to do it. I knew where I wanted to go with it, and I ran with it. And to date, it's worked for me.
And what's the final message you want to leave with people that, the youth are upcoming in football, following their dreams in another sport, or maybe following their artistic dreams that they want? What's the one thing that you really want to tell them?
Well, one of the things that I hope that this message reached them. Education has got to be the highest thing that you could put out there. We all want to be great athletes. We all emulate great athletes. And there's nothing wrong with it. But education is the most important. And I'll tell you, in our lives, we create loops in our lives. And one of the loops is this. If you make a professional team, or if you become president of a company, and anything ever happens, there's a loop in your life. It's just the way the process is. If you could avoid that loop, then you will aspire to do anything you want to do. And the way that loop is, when you become a professional athlete, that's like a president of a company, and you're going along at a level where there's no height and there's no lows. But if anything ever happens to you, there's a loop. Until you can regain that momentum, that loop is there. I've always tried and have been successful at, when I'm going along as president and anything happens to that position, I go up rather than take the loop. And if these young kids can do this, and education is one of the main keys for doing it, because it goes with you all your life. When you're in professional sports, you're actually working yourself out of a job, because the older you get, the more demised you are. But if education will always be there, because that's the strength of all of us, is to be educated and take that education through the rest of your life.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
With all those pep rallies
I'm here at the Scotiabank football experience here in Toronto, the 100th Grey Cup, and the party has begun. I'm here with a gentleman that's one of the major sponsors of the BC Lions, Guy Gillingham. Guy, the first question I have to ask you, what is your thoughts on BC Lions next year?
You know what, next year, I don't know what happened last game of the season. I think the boys, we came up a little flat. I don't think there's not too many things that we should change over. We have a great bunch of guys. The older guys, the younger guys, still a great bunch of guys. You look at our record, we were 13-5. We came out, we were a little soft that one game. So you know what? I think 2013, I'd say keep the same core guys. They have a great team, and you'll see a great BC Lions team next year. And I think we'll be in the Grey Cup next year.
And what about the BC Lions' involvement with the community?
With the community, you know what? I look at guys like Angus Reid and G. Roy Simon and Arlan Bruce and a whole bunch of the guys, Andrew Harris. They do a ton. I've witnessed amazing things from Angus Reid. I'll give you one little example. What happened? They were playing in Saskatchewan sometime during the season. They arrived at 4:30 in the morning. Angus Reid showed up to North Vancouver Football Park at 8:30 in the morning for GSL, a little kids flag football game, because he promised to be there. So he flew in around 4 o'clock in the morning. He was at that park at 9 a.m. And there he was coaching the kids, helping the kids out, handing out donuts and signing autographs. It just kind of shows you the type of guy Angus Reid is.
And what's your thoughts on the CFL, as next season comes around, Ottawa's coming back in, possible expansion to other cities too?
You know what? I think it's an excellent opportunity to have Saskatchewan build up the league. You definitely don't want to go back into the United States, but I think Ottawa deserves another chance. And you got the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, Ottawa, Saskatchewan, Rough Riders too. So I think it's good for the league, and you'll see that they're building a brand new stadium there. The more I would like to see a couple more teams, even maybe one in Nova Scotia or somewhere on the East Coast. But I think it's good for the expansion. I think this team could easily go to 8 to 10 teams.
And finally, who is the person in your life that inspired you not only to get involved with the BC Lions, but in your business life too?
It's stemmed from my father, Grandpa Doug Gillingham, but recently a very positive guy in my life is Angus Reid. I've been with him for 6-7 years now, and he's not just the captain of the British Columbia Lions, but what I see, what he does in the community is absolutely amazing. And he's a very family guy. And I've got 4 kids and a beautiful wife, and I just seeing the way Angus reacts in the community and towards his family is unbelievable.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much, guys.
We're feeling hearty. You'll know the fun's about to begin, 'cause everybody's invited to the party. And when the crowds start to gather, we will greet everyone.
I'm here at the Scotiabank football experience, the 100th Grey Cup in Toronto, Ontario. I'm sitting here with another legend from the CFL, a gentleman that played in the 1971 Grey Cup. He played on the side of the Calgary Stampeders. TSN billed the Toronto Argonauts team at that time, the greatest team that never won. Well, this gentleman, Reggie Holmes, is a gentleman that played on the Calgary team that beat the greatest team that never won. And with that said there, Reggie, can you quickly talk about what it was like to play that game?
Well, the 71 Grey Cup was an experience and a challenge, because Calgary hadn't won the Grey Cup in years. And when we went out to Vancouver, our number one objective was to bring the Grey Cup home. We realized that Toronto had all these high-profile players, but we were playing well ourselves. So we knew that even though it was going to be a good game, we were very confident that we'd probably win that game.
And another question I have to ask you, you're the gentleman that recovered the fumble, and you're also the gentleman that broke Theismann's nose. Can you talk about what happened during that game that led up to the fumble and also the injury of Joe Theismann?
Well, the play where Theismann's nose was broken, he was scrambling, and I was able to get over and put a hit on him, and not knowing at the time that I had broken his nose. But shortly after the play was over, I found out that he had a broken nose. Joe Theismann at that time, and in my own opinion, was one of the best quarterbacks to come out of college. In regards to the play where I recovered Leon McQuay's fumble, it was the closing minutes of the game, and Toronto was threatening to score. Matter of fact, they were down in our territory within probably about the 10, 15-yard line. And Leon McQuay ran a sweep. I filled, and Larry Robinson came up and put a lick on McQuay, and the ball popped out, and I recovered it. And end of story. You know, that particular fumble was one of the main things that was involved in us winning that Grey Cup.
And you also went on to play for NFL teams. I think you're saying Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. What is the greatest memory you have, let's say, within the CFL, playing in CFL, and also playing down in the NFL?
Well, my biggest thrill in the CFL really came before the Grey Cup. We had a playoff game in Calgary against Saskatchewan. And Ron Lancaster threw a pass out in the flat, and I picked it off and returned it 85 yards for a touchdown. And at that time, we were losing the game. And that particular play brought us back, because after that, the stamp started to roll, and we beat Saskatchewan. As far as my biggest play in the NFL was concerned, had to be my rookie year, because I was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in 1971 out of University of Wisconsin. And we were playing the St. Louis Cardinals, and Jim Hart threw a swing pass, and I picked that off. And that was my first interception, and probably the most exciting moment I had.
And also, one question I really love to ask everyone I talk to, who is the one person that you feel influenced you in your life, and what is the greatest message that you feel that they've impressed upon you that you're still following to this very day?
Well, I'd have to say that had to be my father. My father was never had a formal education, but he was a hard-working individual, and he always taught us nothing in this world is free. You have to work for everything you get, and don't ever take anything for granted, and just keep plugging, and things will happen. I mean, a lot of pro stars I idolized, Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly, Paul Warfield, people like that, but my real idol had to be my father.
And finally, are there any inspirational messages you want to leave with the youth that are actually playing football at this time, or anyone else that's following their dreams? They're struggling a bit, they want to reach higher, but they just got to go a little extra further. What kind of message would you like to leave with them?
Well, the one message that I hope everybody understands, football is a short-lived career. Your education is by far so important. And if you don't believe that, you can look at the number of athletes that don't make it in either league and where they are now, because you got to have something to fall back on. Everybody's not going to be a millionaire, and you have to make sure that you strive to achieve your goals. A prime example, look at Calgary's quarterback. He struggled for years, and everybody traded him or set him down or cut him. But he didn't give up, and he came back, and now he's one of the premier quarterbacks in the league. So you just have to stay positive and keep working.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and you have a great time during this Grey Cup festivities here in Toronto.
It's been a pleasure meeting you, and I hope everything goes well for you. God bless you.